Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into this core idea that maybe true health doesn't start in a bottle from the pharmacy.
Right. It starts much deeper.
Yeah, we're exploring the concept that your well-being is fundamentally forged inside your digestive system. And it's not even a new idea, is it? Our sources point back, what, 500 years?
Easily. To Don Quixote, actually, there's that famous quote attributed to Sancho Panza: "The health of the whole body is forged in the stomach's office."
The stomach's office. I like that.
It's incredibly apt, even now. And, when we talk about intestinal health, we want you to think bigger than just, say, the intestines themselves.
Okay.
We really mean the entire setup, the whole digestive tube, from mouth all the way down, plus those key partners.
Like the liver, pancreas.
Exactly. Liver, gallbladder, pancreas, they're all in it together. They work together. And, well, they suffer together, too.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We're not listing all the great supplements you should take.
No, not this time.
Instead, we're focusing on what the sources are calling the policy of minimums. Basically, the most crucial things you need to stop doing.
That's it. The things you have to avoid to let your body even begin to do its natural job, its own balancing act, and cellular repair.
Because these things actively get in the way.
They do. Now, we know there are general irritants out there, pesticides, some meds, additives. Sure, they cause issues.
Right.
But today, we've really zeroed in on the three absolute worst foods or food components that act like saboteurs inside your gut.
Saboteurs. Okay.
Yeah, they pretty much guarantee chronic inflammation. They keep you feeling unwell. So if you literally change nothing else in your diet,
Just these three.
avoiding these three is the absolute minimum first step you need to take if you want to start recovering your health.
Okay, let's unpack this policy of minimums. Where do we start? What's enemy number one?
Well, it's probably the biggest one and maybe the hardest to avoid for many people: refined sugar, and importantly, its substitutes.
Sugar. Makes sense. How bad is it really?
It's like waging chemical warfare on your gut lining. The damage happens in two main ways.
Okay.
First, it directly damages the cells, especially that sensitive lining in your digestive tract. But the second part, that's the real kicker.
Which is?
It promotes systemic inflammation everywhere.
Systemic, so not just in the stomach.
Oh, no. That inflammation doesn't stay put. It floods the whole digestive tube. It hits your liver, your pancreas, and eventually it affects, well, basically every system in your whole body.
Wow. That sounds like the root cause for a lot of chronic problems people face.
Yeah.
The sources directly link high sugar intake to some nasty stuff, right?
Absolutely. Things like gastric ulcers, Crohn's disease, even gallstones seem to have a strong link. Serious, painful conditions.
Which leads right to the next obvious question people ask. If I
Yeah.
cut out sugar, can I just switch to artificial sweeteners? Isn't that the healthy swap?
The substitute trap.
Yeah.
That's a huge point.
And the sources are pretty blunt about this, which honestly surprised me a little. They say artificial sweeteners are not healthy, like at all, associated with cancer, nervous system issues. That feels extreme. Is it really that clear-cut?
Look, the evidence linking these chemicals to long-term problems is, well, it's pretty overwhelming when you dig into it. You're essentially trading one known problem sugar for a whole host of other, potentially worse, unpredictable problems.
So it's not a safe alternative.
Not according to the data. They
Yeah.
trick your body's metabolism, they disrupt things, and yeah, some carry risks like carcinogenic potential that even refined sugar doesn't have. It can actually be a far worse choice. It's definitely not a safe way out of a sugar craving.
Okay. And within this whole sweet category, we also need to talk specifically about fructose, right? Especially the high fructose corn syrup kind of stuff.
Yes, fructose needs its own spotlight. It's everywhere in processed foods and sodas.
Why is it uniquely bad?
It's mainly about how your body processes it, or rather struggles to. It's directly linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD.
Which is rampant now.
It's an epidemic. The liver just has a terrible time dealing with large amounts of fructose.
And for people who already have issues, like diabetics, the sources mentioned vascular lesions. What does that mean exactly? What's happening?
That's a really critical point. Vascular lesions mean damage to the walls of your tiny blood vessels, your microvasculature.
Okay.
And fructose speeds up that breakdown process. Now, think about where those tiny vessels go, sensitive places like the retina in your eye, your kidneys, the skin, and your extremities.
Ah, so that's the connection.
Exactly. For diabetics, This accelerated damage can lead to things like vision loss, potentially blindness, serious kidney problems, or that really poor wound healing, especially in the feet. That's how dangerous this supposedly simple sugar substitute can be.
That's quite alarming. Okay, so if sugar and fructose are that bad, what about the other kind of sweeteners, the polyols,
Right.
like xylitol, sorbitol,
Yeah.
the ones you find in sugar-free gums and candies, even toothpaste?
Right. Polyols or sugar alcohols. Think of these as, well, almost like microbial terrorists in your gut.
Terrorists.
Yeah, their damage isn't just to your cells, it's very specifically aimed at your healthy gut bacteria.
How so?
They damage the bacteria directly, yes, but maybe even more importantly, they mess up how the bacteria talk to each other.
They talk to each other.
Absolutely. Your gut flora is like this incredibly complex community, millions of members all trying to coordinate, maintain balance. Polyols basically jam their communication signals.
Huh.
And if the bacteria can't communicate effectively, they can't coordinate defenses, they can't maintain balance, and the whole ecosystem starts to degrade.
So the big takeaway here, for anyone listening, is you absolutely have to become a label detective.
Mandatory label reading, yes. If it's a sweetener, whether it calls itself natural or artificial, you need to be extremely cautious.
And look for better options if you need sweetness.
Exactly. Real molasses, good quality honey, unrefined panela that's whole cane sugar or natural stevia can be options. The main goal of this policy of minimums is just stopping the toxic damage from the refined stuff and the artificials.
Okay, that's group one down. Moving on to the second major group that's messing up our gut health.
Right.
Refined oils. This one feels less obvious than sugar. Why are refined fats part of this minimum standard?
Well, first, we absolutely need to differentiate between healthy, necessary fats and these highly processed industrial ones. Refined oils make the must-avoid list for two big reasons.
Which are?
One, they actively promote excessive inflammation throughout the body. And two, maybe even worse, they generate a huge load of free radicals.
Right, free radicals. We hear that term all the time. What are they actually doing inside us? What's the damage?
Think of them like tiny bits of chemical shrapnel flying around inside you.
No.
They're highly unstable molecules, and they basically bump into and damage your cell structures, membranes, DNA, you name it. They cause tissues to break down. It's essentially like accelerating the aging and decay process at a cellular level.
So our body is constantly fighting them off.
Always. But consuming refined oils puts that whole damaging process into overdrive. Your body just can't keep up.
But if the oil starts from something seemingly healthy, like a sunflower seed or corn, how does it become so bad when it's refined?
It's all about the processing, the industrial elaboration. To get those oils to be cheap, shelf-stable, clear, and tasteless, which is what food manufacturers want, they go through really aggressive chemical and heat treatments.
Okay.
That process completely strips away anything good. The antioxidants, the vitamins are gone. And worse, it either introduces toxic substances from the chemicals used, or it actually creates new toxic compounds during the high heat, high pressure refining itself.
So a perfectly good virgin sunflower oil
Gets turned into this poor, toxic, inflammatory sludge by the time it's called refined vegetable oil on a label.
which brings us right into our own kitchens. If we buy a good quality, say, virgin oil, how do we avoid messing it up ourselves and, accidentally making it toxic? That kind of defeats the purpose of avoiding the refined stuff.
That is such a crucial point for practical safety. The absolute #1 rule, if your oil starts smoking while you're cooking,
Toss it.
you have to discard it immediately. That smoke is the visual cue that the oil's composition has changed. It's breaking down, creating those exact same free radicals and toxic byproducts right there in your pan.
So if you're cooking in higher heats, you need an oil that can handle it.
Exactly. Stability is key.
And the most stable choices would be?
Your best bets are extra virgin olive oil and pure virgin coconut oil. They are naturally more stable compounds. They can tolerate higher cooking temperatures before they hit that smoke point and start becoming unhealthy.
Okay. But what about those oils we hear are super healthy, packed with omega-3s? Things like flaxseed oil, walnut oil, maybe safflower oil. They always seem so delicate.
They are incredibly delicate, and yes, they can be very beneficial,
Yeah.
but only if they are kept pristine.
Yeah.
Meaning they oxidize incredibly easily. Light, air, heat, even just being open for too long in your pantry can cause them to go rancid very quickly.
And when they oxidize?
They instantly become pro-inflammatory,
Yeah.
counterproductive to your health. All the benefits are lost, and they actually start causing damage.
So the rule for using those kinds of liquid gold oils is pretty strict then.
Absolutely. Use them only raw. Never cook with them.
Like a dressing or drizzled on at the end.
Exactly. Buy them in small, dark glass bottles to protect from light. Keep them sealed tightly, store them somewhere cool and dark, and use them up relatively quickly. That's how you adhere to the minimum standard with those delicate ones.
Got it. Okay, now for the third category, which you mentioned is maybe the most complicated, lectins. This sounds a bit more scientific, abstract.
Yeah, lectins are a bit more complex. Essentially, they're natural compounds found in many plants and even some animals. Think of them as the plant's built-in self-defense mechanism
Defense against what?
against being eaten. They're designed to deter predators, including us, by causing irritation or mild toxicity to whatever consumes them.
Okay, nature's little weapons. Where do we find them?
Well, this is the tricky part. They're in a lot of foods we often think of as healthy staples. Grains and cereals are big sources. Legumes, beans, lentils, peas, the nightshade family,
Foods.
tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplants, and interestingly, certain types of dairy products also contain problematic lectins.
Wow, that's a lot of common foods. Let's break it down. The most famous lectin is probably gluten, right? Found in wheat, barley, rye. What's the damage mechanism there beyond just a standard allergy?
Right, gluten's the poster child. It acts almost like a low-grade poison to the cells lining your digestive tract. It definitely disrupts your beneficial gut flora, but its most critical impact, according to the sources, is causing hyperpermeability.
Hyperpermeability. That's leaky gut, isn't it?
That's the common term, yes, leaky gut.
Can you explain what that actually means? How does gluten cause it?
Imagine the lining of your gut is like a very tightly woven fabric, or maybe a chain link fence where all the links are securely fastened. Gluten contains proteins, particularly gliadin, that chemically interact with the junctions between your gut cells.
Prise them open.
It essentially forces open the gates, those tight junctions. Now, when those gates are open, stuff that should stay safely inside the digestive tube, like undigested food particles, bacterial fragments, toxins, can leak out into your bloodstream.
And that's bad.
Very bad. Your immune system patrolling the bloodstream sees these particles as foreign invaders and immediately launches an attack. This triggers a massive, ongoing, chronic inflammatory response throughout your body.
And that's the connection they're making between gluten, leaky gut, and things like autoimmune diseases or hormonal problems.
Precisely. That constant state of immune alert, triggered by the leakage, can eventually confuse the immune system. It gets overwhelmed, maybe misidentifies your own body's healthy tissues as enemies, and starts attacking them. That's the very definition of an autoimmune disease.
Makes sense.
And just a quick note on oats. While technically gluten-free, the protein in oats, avenin, is structurally similar enough to gluten that it can cause the exact same hyperpermeability reaction in many sensitive people.
Good to know. Okay, beyond gluten, what about lectins hiding in everyday vegetables? Sources mention solanine in nightshades.
Yes, solanine. It's known to be a direct irritant to the gut lining, but it's also specifically linked in some research to aggravating joint pain and arthritis-like symptoms.
Interesting. And then there was another one, agglutinin. Less common name.
Agglutinin, yes, that one's a concern more from a cardiovascular perspective. It has properties that can increase the viscosity or the stickiness of your blood.
Making clots more likely.
It raises the potential risk of clots and thrombi forming, so not great for blood flow.
This really does sound like a minefield of common foods. But I think the most startling insight from the sources, for me anyway, was about casein A1, the protein in most industrial cow's milk, and its potential link to diabetes mellitus. Can you elaborate on that? It sounds major.
It is a major insight, and it definitely requires a moment to process. Casein A1 is the dominant type of casein protein found in milk from most conventional dairy cow breeds, like Holsteins. The issue is this specific protein variant seems to be highly reactive in the human body.
Reactive how?
When you consume it, components of the casein A1 protein can apparently bind to specific cells in your pancreas, the beta cells, which produce insulin.
Okay.
This binding seems to trigger something called a cross-reaction from your immune system.
Meaning the immune system gets confused.
Exactly. It sees the bound casein A1 fragment on the pancreatic cell, identifies it as foreign or dangerous, and launches an attack. But because it's bound to your own cell, the immune system ends up attacking and destroying its own healthy insulin-producing pancreatic cells.
Wow. So it's an autoimmune attack triggered by the milk protein.
That's the proposed mechanism. And this process actively favors the development of type 1 diabetes mellitus. This is why that A1-A2 distinction is suddenly so important.
Because casein A2 doesn't do this.
Correct. KCA2, which is found in milk from older breeds of cows, often called heritage or ecological breeds, as well as milk from goats, sheep, and buffalo, has a slightly different structure. It doesn't seem to trigger the same destructive cross-reaction, so it's generally much better tolerated.
That's fascinating. So pulling it all together on lectins, they're not just irritating poisons, they also act as anti-nutrients.
They absolutely do. By irritating and damaging that gut lining, they directly interfere with your ability to absorb essential vitamins and minerals from your food, even if you're eating nutrient-dense meals.
So you could be eating well but still be malnourished.
Potentially, yes. And they mess with hormones, too. For example, some lectins can block the action of ghrelin.
Ghrelin, that's the hunger hormone, right? Tells you you're hungry.
Yes. But it also plays a role in telling you you're full. If lectins block ghrelin signaling properly, your brain might not get the message that you've had enough to eat. A lack of satiety. You just don't feel fully satisfied, which can lead to chronic overeating and make weight management incredibly difficult. So overall, lectins drive chronic inflammation, act as anti-nutrients, mess with hormones, and can pave the way for autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Okay, this all sounds pretty bad, but let's be practical.
Yeah.
Telling people to completely eliminate grains, beans, legumes, potatoes, tomatoes, that feels incredibly restrictive. These are staples in many diets, and they do have nutritional value, fiber, etc. What's the compromise here? How do you apply the policy of minimums without making life impossible?
That is absolutely the right question. And total permanent elimination isn't necessary or even desirable for everyone. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you do need to respect the chemistry involved.
So what can we do?
Well, the fantastic news is that humans figured this out centuries ago. Many traditional cooking practices around the world were actually developed, probably unknowingly, specifically to neutralize or reduce these lectins.
Like what? What kind of methods?
Simple things, really. Thoroughly cooking foods helps break down many lectins. Soaking legumes like beans and lentils and grains overnight or longer before you cook them makes a big difference.
Okay.
Peeling vegetables like potatoes and eggplants removes lectins concentrated in the skin. Deseeding things like peppers and tomatoes, since lectins are often highest in the seeds, and fermentation. Fermenting foods like soybeans to make tempeh or miso dramatically reduces their lectin content.
So preparation matters.
A lot. It matters immensely. These steps significantly reduce the lectin load and make the foods much safer for most people.
Okay, so reducing the risk is possible. But are there situations where just reducing isn't enough? Where the policy of minimums means mandatory avoidance, at least for a time, to allow healing?
Yes. There are definitely specific situations where total avoidance, regardless of preparation, becomes necessary. The sources outline about 4 key indicators.
The first one.
The most obvious. If you experience immediate and direct digestive upset after eating lectin-containing foods, we're talking abdominal pain, significant gas or bloating, chronic diarrhea, or even persistent constipation. Your gut is clearly telling you it can't handle them.
Makes sense. What's number 2?
Chronic, unexplained joint pain. Lectin irritation doesn't always stay in the gut. It often manifests systemically, and the joints are a common target. If you have persistent joint aches, cutting out lectins might be crucial.
Okay. Third indicator.
If you already have any diagnosed inflammatory disease, doesn't matter if it's cardiovascular disease, rheumatoid arthritis, or even neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, which have strong inflammatory components, reducing all sources of inflammation becomes paramount.
Right. And the final non-negotiable reason to avoid them entirely.
If you have a diagnosed autoimmune disease, any autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's, celiac, though that's gluten-specific, lupus, MS, type 1 diabetes. In these cases, the immune system is already dysregulated. Even the low levels of lectins remaining after careful preparation can be enough to continually provoke the immune system and prevent the gut and the body from fully healing.
So for those individuals, total elimination, at least temporarily, becomes the only way to truly adhere to that minimum standard needed for recovery.
That's the recommendation. It allows the gut lining to heal and the immune system to calm down.
This has been, wow, an incredibly detailed look at this policy of minimums. So just to recap the big 3 for starting gut recovery. Number 1, strictly avoid refined sugar and all artificial sweeteners.
Absolutely crucial.
Number 2, eliminate refined industrial seed oils and never let your cooking oils smoke or burn.
Essential for reducing inflammation and free radicals.
And number 3, manage your lectin intake. Reduce them significantly through proper preparation, or if you fall into one of those sensitive categories, eliminate them completely. at least for a healing period.
That's the foundation. And it's important to end on a positive note here. Remember, the body isn't hopelessly fragile.
Right.
Your digestive tube, your liver, your pancreas, these organs have amazing plasticity, a huge capacity for renewal and recovery. Simply avoiding the things that actively harm them is the powerful first step in letting your body finally do the healing work it's designed to do.
That's a great message, which leads us perfectly into our final thought for today. We started with that old idea about health being forged in the stomach's office. And the source material kind of circles back to that, reminding us that true health is, well, it's global, isn't it?
Yeah, holistic. It encompasses the physical, sure, but also the mental and the emotional aspects of life.
So if your gut health is so tightly linked to this chronic systemic inflammation we've been talking about, you really have to wonder, don't you, how much of your day-to-day struggle, maybe that constant fatigue you feel, or the nagging joint pain, or even just that persistent mental fog, how much of that might actually lift?
If you just remove these three consistent sources of internal damage, it's not just about fixing your digestion, it's often about getting a clearer mind, a more stable mood, a better emotional baseline. That's the real potential power behind this policy of minimums.
Something important to think about until our next deep dive.
Bye.
Listening.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.